Blanchard also continued to pay monthly child support payments of $1,200, as well as sending Gypsy gifts and occasionally talking to her on the phone. During one call on her 18th birthday, Dee Dee told Rod not to mention her daughter's real age, since she thinks she's 14. Rod was never able to visit Gypsy, and Dee Dee told her neighbors in Springfield that Gypsy's father was an abusive drug addict and alcoholic. Dee Dee's new friends and neighbors all believed that Gypsy was sick. She was always in her wheelchair, nearly toothless, and had a childlike voice. Her mother regularly shaved her head to mimic the hairless appearance of a chemotherapy patient. There was only ever one doctor that believed something was off, Dr. Flasterstein, a pediatric neurologist. He ran tests and found nothing wrong. He suspected that Dee Dee may have Munchausen syndrome by proxy, which is a mental disorder in which a caregiver creates the appearance of health problems in another person, and they do it to receive sympathy or attention. After these suspicions, they stopped going to see him. He never reported Dee Dee to social services. He was told by other doctors that the authorities would never believe him. But in 2009, an anonymous caller told the police about Dee Dee's use of different names and birth dates for herself and her daughter, and suggested Gypsy was in better health than she claimed. But after doing a wellness check, they reported that Gypsy seemed to genuinely be mentally disabled, and the file was closed. In 2001, Gypsy attempted her first escape while attending a science fiction and fantasy convention. She was trying to meet a man she met online in a hotel room. After that, Dee Dee smashed her computer with a hammer and threatened to do the same to her fingers if she ever tried to escape again. Sometime around 2012, Gypsy, who continued to use the internet after her mother had gone to bed, met another man online, Nicholas Godejohn, who lived in Big Bend, Wisconsin. Godejohn had a criminal record for indecent exposure and a history of mental illness. In 2014, Gypsy confided to 23-year-old neighbor Aaliyah Woodmansey that she and Godejohn had discussed eloping and even chose names for potential children. The next year, Gypsy arranged and also paid for Godejohn to meet her mother in Springfield. They were planning to make it look like a chance encounter at a movie theater, but as soon as they did meet in person for the first time, Godejohn says Gypsy led him to the bathroom, and they did it. After that, things escalated and they began developing their plan to kill Dee Dee. Godejohn returned to Springfield in June 2015, arriving while Gypsy and her mother were away at a doctor's appointment. After they had returned home and Dee Dee had gone to sleep, he went to the Blanchard house. Gypsy let him into the home and allegedly gave him duct tape, gloves, and a knife, with the understanding that he would use it to murder Dee Dee. Gypsy hid in the bathroom and covered her ears so that she would not have to hear her mother screaming. That's when Godejohn stabbed Dee Dee 17 times in her back while she was asleep. They took $4,000 in cash that Dee Dee kept in the house and fled to a motel outside Springfield, where they stayed for a few days. After not seeing them for a while, friends and neighbors grew suspicious of their whereabouts and called the police. Once they entered the home, they quickly found Dee Dee's dead body and a missing Gypsy, even though all of the things in the house seemed to be undisturbed. All who knew the Blanchards feared the worst for Gypsy. They believed that she would be helpless without her wheelchair, medications, and support equipment like the oxygen tanks and feeding tube. But the neighbor that Gypsy confided in told police that she knew about Gypsy and her secret online boyfriend. She gave them his name, and they were able to find both him and Gypsy at his home in Wisconsin. They were both taken into custody and charged with murder and felony armed criminal action. Then the news finally came out to friends and neighbors. Gypsy had never been sick and had always been able to walk, but her mother had made her pretend otherwise, using physical abuse to control her. Ultimately, Gypsy Rose was sentenced to 10 years in prison, while Godejohn was sentenced to life in prison. Dee Dee's family in Louisiana did not regret her death. They said that Dee Dee deserved her fate, and Gypsy had been punished as much as she needed to be already. None of them would pay for her funeral, and her father and stepmother ultimately flushed her ashes down the toilet. Rod Blanchard, Gypsy's father, was way more forgiving. He said, "I think Dee Dee's problems was she started a web of lies, and there was no escaping after." He said he was happy the first time that he saw a video of Gypsy walking under her own power. As for Gypsy Rose, she was quoted saying, "I feel like I'm more free in prison than living with my mom, because now I'm allowed to just live like a normal woman. After researching what Munchausen syndrome by proxy was on prison computers, her mother had every symptom. She said, "I think she would have been the perfect mom for someone that was actually sick."